Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about the updated fighter items that are going to be on the PvE very soon. I'm actually very excited to talk about this. If you guys haven't been able to tell from my my usual videos, I'm a big fan of fighters. I play a lot of them, and so I'm really interested to see where Riot are going with these changes. So first of all, let's talk about the new items that are intended to be helping out fighters and some of the returning items or changes to existing items that are going to be happening. First up, Riot have added a couple of new items back into the game. First up is Spear of Shojin, a brand new item that builds out of a BF sword and a Kindle gem. It gives 65 AD, 200 health, and 10% CDR. It also has two unique passives. The first reduces damage from champion attacks and abilities by 10 plus 15% of your bonus AD. In addition, if you're near at least 3 enemy champions, you can attack someone to gain Dragon Heart, which blocks 200% more damage for 6 seconds and refreshes on basic attacks. Now, Dragon Heart has a 90-second cooldown, so it's not always going to be available, but this is intended to be a super good survivability item for champions that build a lot of AD rather than defensive items. So if I'm someone like a Vi and I've snowballed really hard and I'm building, let's say, Warrior, Trinity Force, and then I want another item to continue helping me get more damage. Well, the problem is with that kind of a build is that I'm very frequently going to die the second I enter a team fight. I'll burst someone to death, but I'm going to die immediately afterwards. Spear of Shojin is intended to help out with those scenarios where you still have the kind of survivability you want in the middle of team fights. It's also a bit of a skill test because you need to auto-attack with at least 3 enemy champions nearby, and the range is only 500, meaning that you have to be very, very close to a lot of people in order to get this item to actually pop. But when it does, you have a huge amount of survivability because 200%... blocking 200% more damage means that you're blocking, at the bare minimum, 200 damage, plus 15% of your bonus AD, whatever that happens to be, is also improved by 200%. So that's a huge percentage of damage that you're just not taking if you can get Dragon Heart to proc. So it's a big deal for fighters that want to itemize more aggressively but don't always have the ability to do so, or for fighters that just happen to get ahead and basically say, I can build more damage, why not? The other new item is technically a returning item that's coming back, and that is Atma's. If you don't remember Atma's Impaler from back in the day, it's coming back in a new form called Atma's Reckoning. This item builds out of a Aegis of the Legion and pickaxe and grants 25 attack damage, 30 armor, and 30 magic resistance. In addition, it has a unique passive that causes you to gain attack damage equal to 0.5% of your maximum HP for each second in combat with enemy champions, turrets, or epic monsters, which stacks up to 2.5%. What this means is that you're essentially getting, depending on the champion and depending on how much health you've built, you're effectively getting a ton of free damage just for being in combat with champions, turrets, or epic monsters. Now, this is a huge deal. It's sort of the same thing as the original Atma's in that it helps fighters who are building primarily defense find a way to turn that defense into offense, but without the same problems that the original Atma's did. You can no longer just kind of stonewall the lane by building full defense and then buy an Atma's and have a lot of damage. Instead, it's a way for you to say, all this health I'm building on items to help me stay alive is now going to be relevant on me because I have an Atma's. So on people like Trundle, for example, who are going to go something like Titanic, Deadman's Atma's, you're getting a ton of damage for free while not sacrificing your survivability as much as you would normally. So I'm actually really excited to play with this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it does help out a lot of these champions that do tend to primarily itemize health and just don't have that much damage afterwards. Finally, a couple of tweaks are being made to current fighter items. Obviously, Maw of Malmortius and Guardian Angel were changed in the most recent patch in order to be a little bit more enticing to fighters and champions in general. But we also have a couple more tweaks to items Sterak's Gage and both of the Hydra items. Sterak's Gage is going from 50% of your base AD to 50% of your base AD as bonus AD. What this means is that champions that rely heavily on base attack damage scalings are not going to be quite as turned on by Sterak's Gage, whereas other champions should be fine with it. Right now, the idea behind the changes is that it's going to make it be a situational item for more champions without making it being absolutely broken on Trinity Force users and useless for everyone else, or balanced on everyone else and broken on Trinity Force users. So hopefully we'll see how this change plays out. Next up, the Hydra items are receiving some smaller changes because basically fighters right now had to spike really, really hard at 2 items just based on how they build, and because they usually don't have any scaling. A fighter will be at their strongest at 2 items, and they will be very strong at 2 items, but as the game continues going on, they tend to fall off really hard because they don't have any items that help them scale into the late game. Because Riot are giving them better late game tools in the form of the new Atmas and Spear of Shojin, they are reducing the cost of Titanic Hydra and Ravenous Hydra by 250 gold and changing their build pass up very slightly, but both items are losing some attack damage in order to compensate for this. So what this means is that if you're playing someone like Kled, for example, you won't spike quite as hard at the 2 item mark where you have your Hydra and your Cleaver complete, but you will still end up being, you can still scale a lot harder into the late game with things like Atmas and Spear of Shojin. So, as a fighter player, I'm actually really happy with these changes. Obviously, the nerf to Titanic Hydra kind of sucks. The changes they've made to Sterak's Gage and those sorts of things are actually a benefit for the kinds of champions I play. They will suck if you play a Trinity Force user, but at the same time, I think that in general, Trinity Force users will be happy by the number of items they now have to play with. If I'm playing someone like Camille, yeah, I'm not going to spike quite as hard at Trinity Force Sterak's Gage, but at the same time, I'm way happier because I have Spear of Shojin to help me dive in. I have Atma's Reckoning, so if I fall behind, I don't feel as bad about building pure defense because I can turn some of that defense into offense later. In general, I think these are going to be some really interesting changes, and I really can't wait to play with them and see where they go in the future. I don't know that these changes are going to be good enough to just make fighters OP, but what I hope it does is it makes fighters just feel better about themselves, and hopefully it opens up the option for more fighters to actually show up in the top lane as sort of meta picks, because right now there aren't that many fighters that really get played in the top lane. You'll see Camille, you'll see Gangplank, but other kind of light fighters or juggernauts just don't get played, especially at the pro level of play. They just don't get seen. It's mostly going to be tanks up there, the occasional Gnar, the occasional Camille, the occasional Gangplank. So I'm really excited to see these changes. I hope they really make this class of champion feel better about themselves. And I'm hoping that it doesn't completely break things, because I would hate for these items to come out and then a bunch of fighters need significant nerfs in order to get back into a balanced state. So we'll have to see how everything goes when it goes live. Let me know what you guys are thinking of these changes and item additions down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're looking for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, link down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I will talk to you all later.